Welcome again. Today we are going to be working more with circles. As many of you know, this is a lot of review, but I do want you to write these down whether you know them or not. It is good to have something to refer back to. We're going to look at area of circles and finding the circumference of circles as well today. We may add a few extra pieces in, like semicircles, just to kind of give us a little bit of a challenge. But these are just review to kind of get us started into our volume unit. So we're going to get started here. Remember, I really would like you to write these notes down. It gives you one, part of your grade. Two, it also gives you somewhere to look back to if you have any questions on your homework. All right, first key idea here is talking about the difference between diameter and radius. I would like you to make sure to write this down. So if you need to pause the video to do it, make sure that you get this in your notes. This will be something we're checking for. So the diameter, or d, of a circle is twice the radius. Okay, so the radius goes halfway across the circle, as you can see here. The diameter goes the full way across the circle, and we've worked with that before. So it shows you some algebra. The diameter here is d equals 2r because the diameter is twice the radius. And then the radius could be equal to d over 2 or d divided by 2 because the radius is half of the diameter. So that is good to know just in case it gives us one or the other and we have to work with the other one. Some other pieces that are good to remember just on this slide that we'll talk about really quickly. Pi, remember, this could be just a friendly reminder or it could be something you know. Pi, we generally use or round 3.14 for pi. So we'll be using that a little bit today as we're looking for circumference and area of circles. Okay? Next slide is also very important that you would write this down. As you can see, it says write this in your notes. So you need to make sure you have this in your notes. It could be on the formula sheet that I gave you yesterday as well, so that's fine, but I would like you to write it down. So the circumference of a circle is equal to pi times the diameter, or pi times twice the radius. So it gives you two options here. If you were given the diameter, you could multiply just the diameter times pi, as you see here. If you're given the radius, you could multiply the radius times 2 and then multiply that by pi. Either way will work. Also listed on this screen is the area of a circle formula. That is a equals pi r squared. Okay, so notice the difference between 2 pi r and pi r squared. Okay, here we're multiplying by 2. Here we're multiplying by whatever it is. We're multiplying r times r. So whatever r is, we're multiplying it by itself. Big difference there. Okay, so we're going to do some examples. This shouldn't take us too long. We've done this before, so we're just going to work through it. Yes, you need to show your work. Yes, you need to write these down. Alright, so the first one, we're looking for the area and the circumference of the flying disk here. It says use 3.14 for pi. It doesn't actually say that on there, but now it does. Okay, so first things first, let's start with the circumference. Circumference is equal to pi d or 2 pi r. Either one works. Since we see here only half of the circle being used, we can assume we know this is r. R is equal to 5, which we could also figure out what is d then. Well, d is twice r, so that would be 10. So now you have either option of formulas here. You could either use c and plug in 10 for d, or you could use this number 1, I guess we should call it, or this number 2, and you could plug in 5 for r. Either way, you should get the same thing. So I'm just going to use this first option, 3.14, and then times 10. Over here, you would get the same thing. 2 times 5 is 10 times 3.14. So this will move our decimal place over. 3.14 times 10 is going to be 31.4. And make sure you label, this is just one-dimensional, so 31.4 inches. That's our circumference. So now we want to find our area. Area, remember, is pi r squared. So we're going to use 3.14. Our r is 5, and we're going to square that. So 5 squared would be 5 times 5. Okay? 5 times 5 is going to give us 25. And we're going to multiply that by pi. We get 78.5 inches squared this time. So make sure you have this written in your notes. If you need to pause, that's fine. Moving on to the next example, okay, we have another example here, and I would like you to try this one on your own. So go ahead, pause the video, take a second, make sure you figure out what your radius is, what your diameter is, and use 3.14 for pi. So you're going to find the area and the circumference. Okay, this part's for a little bit of a challenge today. We can also work with semicircles. So we wouldn't be actually finding the circumference of a semicircle, we'd be finding the perimeter, but we'd be using the idea of the circumference. So as you can see here, we have a semicircle, or half a circle. So we're going to take the idea of the circumference, but use the idea that it's only half of it. So the circumference of a semicircle, well, we could just use pi d, but then divide that by 2. Now, that would give us this length right here that I'm tracing. It wouldn't actually give us the entire perimeter. We would have to make sure to add back on the diameter when we're all said and done. So that's a piece to remember. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to write this formula out every time you see a semicircle, but this is kind of the idea of the formula. Pi times d divided by 2 plus the diameter when it's all said and done, because that would be part of that perimeter. So let's take a look at this. We'd have 3.14, the diameter is 6 times 6 divided by 2 plus 6. So if we do some math here, we have to do the numerator first. 3.14 times 6 is going to be 18.84. Okay, we're going to divide that by 2. That would give us 9.42, and then all said and done, we're going to add, this is in my way, 6 to that. So we get 15.42 meters. That would be our perimeter for this semicircle. So we have half of the circle on the outside there, and then plus our diameter. All right, if we were looking for the area of this would be pi r squared, but half of it, so we would divide by 2. Pretty simple. So we would have 3.14. What is the radius of this semicircle? Well, if the diameter is 6, remember the radius is half of that, so it would be 3. Okay, so I have it all set up for you. Go ahead, you can pause and write and finish out that problem for the area of this semicircle.